Come on, Lisa, you should see the writing on the wall. This is not gonna work. He's just not into you, girl. It's not a good sign if your side piece keeps asking about your boyfriend during your dirty talk. Speaking of which... Okay. There is some Johnny and Mark fan fiction out there, but sadly not that much. So we'll just count that one as an L and we'll move on. So back on the rooftop, where all the drama happens. Watching the stairwell, Johnny emerges with all the fire and passion that he can muster, just screaming out, "No, I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not." Oh, hi, Mark. This scene has so many memes. There's a Mac attack on YouTube where I did not hit her, I Robot scene. You can watch Johnny as he slowly clones himself walking out onto the rooftop, or watch as he declares his innocence to Luke Skywalker in any other number of various animations, cartoons, and video game recompilations of this scene. And Mark, just like everyone else, he isn't worried about it. No one thinks Johnny would actually hit Lisa. It is pretty funny. I just imagine Lisa at the police station trying to give a report and the officer just being like, "Why would you say that about old Johnny? That's so mean. Don't you know how secure he is at his job?" So, Tommy reportedly had a lot of difficulties getting this line out, but he does manage to get out this 13-word line. But honestly, I found myself having a little bit of trouble remembering it. I actually had to look it up once or twice, just so that I knew I had it right. Back on the rooftop, Mark dismisses any notion that Johnny might have hit Lisa so quickly that'll make you wonder why the subplot even exists. He does ask, "Well, did you?" which is at least an incomplete sentence worth of concern, I guess. Johnny says no, don't even ask, and just as soon as he takes a minute to breathe, Mark starts to get some weight off his chest and lays down some guilt-ridden conversation. He asks Johnny if he thinks women cheat like men do, and Johnny seems suspicious for a minute, but then Mark starts in on a story about a girl he knew who used to date 12 guys, and then one of them found out and beat her up so badly it landed her in a hospital on Guerrero Street, which I will mention is the actual street Johnny lived on and was supposed to somehow be a jab at him, and I'm not sure that even makes sense either. But apparently Greg Sestero was just super fed up with the scene by the time it was done, and that was how he was apparently going to get back at Tommy or some such for having him suffer through that scene. It's all a little funny, but I do have a couple of notes here. So first, I gotta say, Johnny, so he comes out onto the rooftop, and he says, "I did not hit her, it's not true, it's bullshit, I did not, oh hi Mark." So that means Johnny is initially unaware that Mark is on the rooftop? Because the last thing he says is, "Oh, hi, Mark." So when Johnny first comes on the rooftop, he's not coming up there to talk to Mark or anything like that. He's literally just coming up there to shout his anger out to the world, screaming at the top of his lungs that he did not hit his future wife, Lisa. He also reiterates to Mark that his future wife, Lisa, was claiming he hit her when he sits down, once again establishing Johnny's surprise at Mark being there. And I personally enjoy thinking about that. It adds to the whole scene, knowing that he's trying to do this 1950s style streetcar shout out to the world. And in my opinion, it's just much more dramatic than him coming out there just to confide in his buddy Mark. Now, Mark likewise has no idea that Tommy is about to imminently appear, as he's just holding a football, casually mulling around on the rooftop. I guess he's just apparently just sitting up here thinking about this girl that he knew that was violently assaulted. Which, now Mark does tell us his story about this girl, but apparently goes right over Tommy's head, as he just weirdly laughs off the whole story before telling Mark how lucky he is to have him as a friend. Johnny suggests that Mark should find a girl himself, and Mark laughs, stroking his football menacingly as he says that, yeah, maybe he should. Maybe he already has. Johnny also mentions here that Mark used to date a girl named Betty, and this is one of the few plot details that might suggest that we aren't in Stephen King's Under the Dome. Other than that, we don't get a lot of information of any other people in the world actually existing. Mark explains that Betty was pretty and all, but terrible in bed, and if you've seen the movie, then you've also seen him and Lisa together at this point, which, seeing him and Lisa try to get frisky, I just don't know how Betty could be any worse. The little conversation comes crashing to an end when Johnny tries to ask Mark what's bothering him, and it becomes apparent that Mark is hiding something. So Johnny tries to pull the answers out of him, and Mark just doesn't want to tell him, and so he rushes off screen. So Tommy doesn't manage to pull the answers that he was looking for from Mark, but he does manage to pull that football away as he yanks it from him before he exits the scene. And this time, we get Denny showing back up right after Mark leaves, and he stays for just under 3 minutes. A remarkable 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Another big Denny scene right here. And they toss the football around on the rooftop, super unsafe. And they make plans to watch a movie, which, we never see or address again. And Denny confesses his love for Lisa to Johnny in this very touching scene. Johnny just tells him that, he understands that he has all these feelings for Lisa, but they're friends, and he's not worried about him and Lisa because he trusts the two of them. Because Johnny is a really nice guy, and he's got such a stable job. And I've noticed at this point that the rooftop serves a key and critical feature. This is one of our most dramatic areas, and it's where almost all of the confessions of the movie actually take place. This is where Johnny confesses to the world about Lisa's betrayal. Mark asks his guilt-ridden questions about his affair to Johnny and talks to Johnny about cheating. And Denny then immediately comes up and he confesses his love for Lisa as well. So Johnny and Denny have this big heartfelt talk where they talk it out. They talk about his love for Lisa. And then Johnny even mentions that we have another person who exists in the universe, another girl named Elizabeth. So another Lisa who Denny's supposedly dating or seeing or something. And then Denny's like, oh yeah, I forgot about her. I do love her. I'm going to marry her one of these days. And Johnny's just like, that's the idea. We do learn that Johnny is apparently paying for Denny's room as well as all of his tuition. Just more establishing facts that Johnny is this super nice guy with this very stable job. So they finish off their game of catch, and then they just leave scene to go have some dinner. We then transition to Lisa and Michelle with a short shot of a piece of the Golden Gate Bridge, which I'm sure is just a cutaway from the actual title sequence to the movie that just never got used and so got recycled. So we get to watch Lisa and Michelle as they have some midday Chardonnay. It's not actually Chardonnay. It looks more like a Merlot or something. But regardless, they're having their gal pal wine time. And Lisa starts telling Michelle that Johnny got drunk and hit her. So again, this is the big plan. We're going to tell everybody about this time that Johnny got drunk. Because she managed to get Johnny drunk this one time by forcing Scotchka down his throat. I do have to give some credit to Robin Paris in this scene, as she does try and add some logic to her character beyond what the lines have for her. You can watch as she looks Lisa up and down in disbelief, not noticing any kind of visible marks or anything like that before she just kind of loses all concern in her voice. But also, then you have Lisa, who the minute that Michelle is showing concern, because she shouts out, she's like, what? And then Lisa's like, oh, it's not his fault. He'd lost the promotion at his job. Just instantly dismissing her own claims of spousal abuse. And again, so what's the point? You can just leave him, just take your pretty red dress and just pack up. Leave. But she doesn't pack up and leave. Instead, after, dismissing her own claims of spousal abuse, she then tells her friend Michelle that she's been sleeping with Johnny's best friend Mark. Michelle, thank God, is one of the few characters in this movie that tries to be the voice of reason, telling her that what she's doing is wrong and trying to insist that she needs to tell Johnny. And Lisa's just like, nah, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna do what I want to do. And so despite the fact Michelle continues to try and convince her to be truthful, she sticks fast to her plan of just riding this out. She's just gonna see how it goes. So Michelle, she finally relents and tells Lisa not to worry, that her secret is safe with her. And so Michelle is now one of Lisa's close confidants and will not betray her. Unlike Johnny. Everybody betrayed Johnny. So they clink wine glasses to commensurate their new agreement, and this is all while Johnny's walking in. He apparently has overheard the tail end of the conversation about keeping it just between the two of them, and asks Michelle what the secret is about, but Lisa just shuts it down immediately. She's like, "It's between us girls." And she sort of draws lines there. Meanwhile, Michelle leaves while telling Lisa to remember what she told her, about she should tell Johnny. And Johnny starts to question Lisa about what's going on. And Lisa gets super defensive, and they get into another argument while Johnny is trying to get answers and Lisa's hiding behind a shroud of ambivalence. So this is when we get Johnny shouting, "You're tearing me apart, Lisa." And Lisa just tells him immediately that he's being hysterical. And so Johnny asks, "Do you understand life? Do you?" Which, no, no, I've got to say, Tommy, I can't say that I understand life per se. So Lisa leaves before reassuring Johnny and telling him not to worry about it. Everything will be alright, and end the scene, I guess. So, next scene takes place in a back alley, and it features Johnny, Mark, Mike, and Denny. And it's essentially, it just serves three purposes. It's only really here to let everyone throw the football around, because football is fun and playing without gear is a challenge. To explain at length why Peter was coming back for his boxers, how he managed to lose his boxers with his pants on, and why Claudette in turn ends up with those boxers. And it's also there in an attempt to explain an arm injury that Scott Holmes actually sustained during the production of the movie. You see, he broke his arm during the production of this movie, and so Tommy that is, wanting all subsequent shots to actually make sense canonically within the movie, he went ahead and added this scene in. Really just so that Greg Sestero can come in and push Scott Holmes down so that he can sustain this arm injury. But the thing is all these subsequent shots in which Scott Holmes has the cast, none of those are actually used. So this scene is almost completely pointless. Except for extra football, and of course to explain the whole boxer thing, which it just goes into at depth, explaining that he had put his boxers in his pants pockets and that Claudette had pulled them out, and that's how they came out, and so he came in running back in after them, and it's pretty messy, to be honest, which that might make you wonder, why do this at all? In a normal movie, you might just go back and reshoot the scene with Mike and Michelle so that they made more logical sense, or edit them differently so that the logical inconsistency wasn't featured, or at least less prominently. But that obviously is not what Tommy chose to do. Instead, he chose to add another half scene halfway through the movie in an attempt to explain away two minor story inconsistencies that really didn't matter in the long run. They didn't matter at all. It does feature Denny, though, for a grand total of 1 minute and 9 seconds. And I do like how Mike gives the exact same facial expression after being pushed into the trash cans as he does when Michelle drops the chocolate. It's like the only emote that he can do. Also, we get Tommy wearing a black wife beater in this scene, and frankly, he looks pretty good in it. Like, boy, them some nice biceps. You should be out on the streets cracking chestnuts with those arms instead of chasing after Canadian Bacon Girl over there. Well, we go back to check on Canadian Bacon Girl over there in her apartment, and she's with her mom, Claudette. And Claudette is telling us all about her friend Shirley, and how Shirley wants to buy a house. But when she asked Johnny for help with the loan, all that he could say was that he was awkward. Me oh my. Again, not even asking for herself. She's asking for like 50 grand for a friend, and she is upset that Johnny is hesitant to just drop that kind of cash in her hand. I can see why she doesn't want to lose him as a son-in-law and all. I get honestly so indignant when I watch this scene. Claudette is just like, I expected your husband to be a little more generous. What the fuck are you talking about, Claudette? Like, I don't even have words for you. It's so much money. Like, where do you get off? And Johnny is so good to you. He has such a stable job. So after Claudette bitches about Johnny not giving her enough money to help finance her friend's dream of buying a rancher in the San Jose Valley, Lisa reminds her mom that she doesn't love Johnny. So if she wants to wring any more money out of him, she probably better do it fast. She also confesses that she's slept with someone else, but she won't say who. But who do we see off in the background, sneaking around silently in the staircase? It's Johnny. Nearly invisible with his stealthiness, he hears every word, and his giant heart is breaking. After hearing this blatant admission, he decides he has to go off to find proof as whether or not Lisa is having the supposed